Hello, welcome to I guess not quite winter lights. I've had a few IT difficulties and got some annual leave coming up, so the next this one and the next are just going to be more short reflections on the last readings from Matthew, so I apologise that they're not more sort of polished in terms of talks and things, but hopefully you'll find them helpful as a way of engaging with our last two talks from Matthew's Gospel. And our reading this evening is taken from Matthew 27 verses 45 to 56. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Many women were there, watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. And I just wanted to reflect just on some of the things that, having spent some time the last couple of days studying through this reading, that struck me. Just because we've skipped a little bit, in case it isn't obvious from the reading, Jesus is on the cross, betrayed by Judas, handed over, tried in front of the high priest, tried in front of Pilate, and crucified as a traitor, a seditious actor. And the reading starts with the darkness coming over the land from midday until 3 in the afternoon on the Sunday, the first day of the week. And this is both literally and sort of figuratively the darkest moment. The darkness was an aspect of that very first Passover, and so here the darkness returns, a symbol, an expression of God's anger and disfavour at what's happening on the cross. And as the darkness is there, Jesus cries out in these words, quoting from Psalm 22, which is a psalm of desperation. The psalmist is separated from God, feels their distance from God, although the psalm does end in a note of hope. And Jesus, who all through Matthew's Gospel has only ever, when he's talked to his Father, called him Father, here for the first time says, my God, that slightly more distant relationship. But even in this experience of separation, I think it's important to note that Jesus, he's quoting from the Bible and he's saying, my God. You know, he's lost contact, he's not lost faith in God. Separated, but he still trusts. And his cry shows his strength. Mostly people who died on the cross, they died as they became weaker. They lost the ability to keep breathing in the way that they were hung. But Jesus' cries, they demonstrate his strength. But his cry is misunderstood. The guys listening don't quite get what Jesus is saying, and so they give him this sponge filled with wine vinegar. Something that's in all 4 of the Gospel accounts, the drinking wine vinegar. It's a fulfillment of Psalm 69:21. And I think here what I notice is it seems all is lost. You know, for the disciples have scattered, Jesus is dying on a cross, and it seems like, well, if there were plans here, that surely must have gone awry. But actually this is all going as planned. It's going how it has to go. You know, these words written in Psalm 69 are ancient, even in Jesus' day. But here he fulfills them. Jesus then cries out again. Perhaps he cries out the second time with the words from Luke, where Jesus says, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Some comfort in that Jesus, who earlier was saying my God and using that more distant terms, may perhaps later, did perhaps, later say Father. The cry out shows his strength, that he gives himself to death. He doesn't succumb to death. Death doesn't gain victory over Jesus. Jesus enters death out of his own choice upon the cross. And in the moment, as Jesus dies and the world does its best to come to an end, that the Son of God has died. The world tries to end. The curtain breaks in two from top to bottom. This is a curtain many stories high. Who's up there to break it? Nobody. Breaks from top to bottom, not bottom to top. God is responsible for the curtain breaking. God did it. And the temple in that moment loses its special status. Jesus, and not the temple, is where we go to meet with God, to go and be in God's presence. And the earth shakes and the rock splits. New life breaks forth. These are all signs from the Old Testament of the end of the age. It's like we get a hint of the fullness of what will happen upon Christ's return. And I just, because I know I was asked this question recently about the dead being raised at this point. Interestingly, we have the earthquake as Jesus dies, the death being raised, but they don't leave the tombs until the resurrection. So did they just sort of play patience in the tombs? And I think that should reveal to us that Matthew is not writing a history as we would understand it. What Matthew is doing is he's trying to help us to understand what is happening as Jesus has been resurrected. And so what we see here is both signs of Old Testament prophecy fulfilled and signs of the life that comes with Christ. So the questions of what and how are wrong. The questions of why are important. Why are there people coming to life? Because Jesus has just broken the power of death. And then everything seems to start to settle back down, and we have this cameo from the guards. In Matthew's Gospel, these guys come back and forth in the same way that the women will do, and we'll pick up that next time slightly more. And the guards, if you think they've been stood at Jesus's crucifixion the whole day, they've seen the religious leaders of Jerusalem come and hurl insults at him, mock him for claiming to be the Son of God. But they've stood there and they've watched Jesus all day. I'm guessing they've watched lots of people spend their last hours on the cross. They know how most people respond. And the way they've seen Jesus respond and the signs of the earthquake and everything that's followed, their conclusion, judging between the religious leaders and Jesus, is that Jesus is right. He is the Son of God. And Matthew's writing that, highlighting that for us, because he wants us to realise that, to the outsider from the very beginning it was obvious that Jesus is the Son of God. Perhaps the religious leaders couldn't see it, but this Roman soldier, he could see it. This thing that started off, God bringing salvation through the Jewish people, but actually now it's going to become for everyone, for whatever nation. And yes, finally we move to these women, and it's really important that we notice that the women have been with Jesus the whole time. They've not been mentioned really throughout the gospel, but they've always been there. They've always been there caring for Jesus' needs, travelling with him wherever he's been, going. But now we will see them mentioned. In this reading, in part of the gospel that we're not going to have read, and in the reading for next time, these women will come up because they are the consistent witness to what's going to happen. So they're watching here Jesus die, they're going to watch him be buried, and we'll see next time the completion of their witness and their ministry. I hope you found that helpful, just a brief reflection on these really important passages. I would encourage you just to read through it as we perhaps start to look towards the end of the year, and all the remembrance and Christ the King and Advent and his return. Actually, all of those things gain their hope from this moment. I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.